Hello, I'm here with my good buddy. He's a real good Mr. Chummy. I love my good buddy Noah Wilder. Please finish this bit.
And that is Elias.
Hi, guys.
This is our podcast.
I've had no coffee this morning because I never drink coffee unless I'm out of the country, and I'm bugging.
And we have a 3-hole punch with us, just for your information.
Just for your
Listen. It didn't even make a sound.
It
anyway,
really...
I thought I was going to make a clicky sound.
Well, that's only if you have paper. The paper is what makes the clicky sound.
Okay. Anyway, and this is the... our Christian Viewing Experience podcast. Thank you for listening. We're going to get started now. Hey, Elias.
Hello.
How was your week?
It's pretty good, actually. I slept a lot. I started taking melatonin this week.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's completely, revolutionized my life. I don't know how to say this any better, but basically one day I might have to be like a recovering drug addict because, oh my gosh, my sleep life has improved.
What was it?
So much.
Was this prescribed by a doctor?
No, it was just I just bought some store-bought melatonin, man.
Okay.
Pop a pill a day and sleep an hour away.
I know about this because we were supposed to meet on Tuesday, and I texted you at 9 when you're supposed to show up on campus to meet up and talk, and you did not respond until 11. Because you're like, yeah, I took some melatonin last night.
That was the first day that I did it, and I woke up and I was like, oh my gosh, I might be late to class, but it's so worth it.
Yeah, so I know about this. What else has happened this week?
What else is going on with me? Honestly, that's pretty much the biggest event.
Okay.
Other than that, I'm going to have to say getting all of this set up, because it was very difficult to figure out exactly when we were going to be able to sit down, record, get everything edited, and I think we actually have something resembling a schedule at this point.
Yeah.
So...
Well, the thing is, I made a schedule with you.
Yes.
And I said, this is our A time. This is our primary time. These are our B times and our C times. And then yesterday, you were trying to make a new schedule and ignore what we had come up with.
Well, I didn't try to ignore it. I tried to see if there was a time, because we wanted to record some extra episodes, just as little buffer episodes.
Yeah.
And so I was under this impression that it would be super helpful to do that. And I was like, hey man, are there any other times you'd be available this week? And you took such great offense to that.
I poured my heart into our schedule, Elias. Okay. Anyway, that's Elias. I'm Noah. My week has been good, too.
You didn't even give me a chance to ask. Now I seem like the horrible
person.
Since you
didn't ask.
How's your week?
My week's been pretty good. I went and saw Sonic, and it was really good.
Yeah. I've really been wanting to watch it.
Yeah, we did it spontaneously on Tuesday night, because it's $5 movie night on Tuesday nights.
Right.
Here in our city.
Our city.
But, yeah, we went and saw it. It was actually surprisingly good. I heard it was going to be good.
Yeah.
But I expected it that only people were saying that because...
Sonic the Hedgehog.
They were surprised it was good.
Yeah.
But it was actually legitimately
Pikachu?
good. Well, it was better than Detective Pikachu.
Oh.
Yeah, because I'm not a huge video game guy.
I am.
I'm not a huge Pokemon guy.
I am.
In any other sense, or Sonic guy or in any other sense. So I don't have a lot of knowledge. I just know a few names of a few characters and stuff. Yeah. And Sonic really did not expect you to know anything.
Okay.
Where Detective Pikachu did expect you to know, a little bit.
And they relished in that.
Yeah.
They were like, see this cute Pokemon you totally know the name of?
Yeah. There's there's so many Pokemon. You know them all. I'm like, this means nothing to me.
Yeah, for me, I was sitting there in the movie theater.
You were blown away.
I was pointing at the screen. I was like, oh my gosh, that fleshy rendition of that thing is hideous, but I love it.
Gotta catch them all.
Exactly. That was me in the movie theater.
Yeah. So, but I really enjoyed Sonic. Jim Carrey is actually really good in it.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you consider the last movie that Jim Carrey was really good in?
I I don't even know, man.
Okay.
I haven't paid attention to his career enough to even know like,
You're like the Riddler.
Any recent thing he's done. He like the last thing I can remember him doing before this is Mr. Popper's Penguins. And
that does exist.
Yeah, and I did not go see that.
Yeah, no one
I was
did.
in middle school, so there was no way or reason for me want to see it. So, whatever Jim Carrey is doing, good for him. But this was pretty good.
Resurgence.
I don't know the last time I went and saw Jim Carrey in a movie and really was like, oh, that I enjoyed Jim Carrey specifically.
Yeah.
And I feel like I think the character design change actually really helped in that, like, if it was like that weird realistic character design, Jim Carrey would be carrying the whole movie.
Yeah.
Because like the character design like really just fits in now with what Jim Carrey's doing, so it just blends in perfectly.
Okay.
And so I think it's like a 20% better movie because they changed it, honestly.
All right. I can roll with that.
Okay, so I got some news from the week.
Okay.
I sent the first one to you on Instagram as soon as it came out.
Yes. And we talked about it for a second, and then we stopped talking about it because I'm the worst texter.
Yeah, well, I didn't really want to talk about it because I knew we were going to do this anyway.
Okay, fair.
So, like, there's only so much you can say about it, but it's a new bat suit for Robert
Pattinson, yes.
Batman, Batman.
Robert Pattinson.
The Matt Pattinson.
Let's stop. Let's stop that.
Yeah, so there's a new bat suit. It looks interesting. You don't see the ears. I noticed that recently. You never see the ears, so I'm wondering how long the ears are going to be, because if they're like 5 inches above his head,
I was gonna say, like, I love the bat suits that have like ridiculously long ears.
Yeah, I think
not because I think they're cool, mind you, but because I think it's ridiculous.
I think that only works in comics and in cartoons. If that was ever translated to live action, it would be a miracle for that to actually work out.
Oh yeah.
But one thing I particularly love about this is there's a collar at the top of his cape. And so he can move his neck around, but I just like the look of the collar very much. Yeah. And it's all, his mask is actually leather. Mm-hmm. Did you see that?
I did see that.
Okay, I'm going to quit talking. What do you think?
I was going to say, it's interesting you pointed out the collar, because as soon as I saw that, Robert Pattinson is kind of famous because of vampires.
Ooh.
And, he's Twilight Boy. He's never going to be anything else to me. I'm always going to see him and I'm like, oh, he's that character in Twilight that I don't know the name of. And I'm going to move on with my life.
He's not Cedric Diggory to you?
Honestly, no.
Wow.
I'm going to be real with you.
Have you ever seen a Twilight movie?
Yes, I've seen the first one once.
And that was more impactful on your image of this man than Cedric Diggory.
No. It was more... I didn't find out he was Cedric Diggory
You just didn't understand.
Until years afterwards.
Oh, okay.
But Robert Pattinson, I saw him... And I knew who he was, and I knew he was in Twilight. And I didn't know what Twilight was, but I knew that I hated it because of all the commercials for, like, fast food, like, things trying to get in on. Anyway, point is, Robert Pattinson, to me, is always going to be, like, very much, like, vampires. That's how I'm always going to imagine it. Vampires, that's the connection in my head. And for him to have the cape, it's immediately, kind of like Dracula. And so I thought that was really cool. I didn't know if that was a nod to, like, things that he's done in the past, if that was intentional or not, but regardless, I enjoyed that.
Well, in like Elseworlds, in like alternate universes where Batman actually is a vampire, doesn't he have a huge collar? He will
have a huge collar. Yes.
Okay, so that may be a thing, but I just think
that's what I'm saying.
I just think it looks cool.
It looks cool. It's a nice look.
I hope his bat ears are small. Not small like Ben Affleck's, but like not
gargantuan.
Not spears on top of his head.
That's what I always think. I'm like, is he gonna like puncture the throat?
Why doesn't he like ram people with that? With his leather ears.
The weirdest like bit of Batman trivia. He rams people with those ears on him.
On occasion.
On occasion.
If the opportunity presents itself.
Yeah.
Which it would always present itself.
Anyways, so my thinking here, I really love the suit. Really the only thing that we talked about over text relating to the suit is the fact that it really looks a lot like the Arkham games because the suit, it looks like it has like pieces to it. It's a very tactile, there's a lot of texture to it. There's a lot of different pieces. It looks like the shoulder parts like are just pads that can come off, which I was like, oh, Arkham.
And the emblem.
And the emblem, it looks like it's made of a gun or something.
Yeah,
like
I saw that theory.
Is that a theory? Oh.
That's like a theory that like he split the gun that killed his parents down the middle and made it his emblem, which is cool and also stupid.
I was gonna say that's pretty edgy, even for Batman. Although there is a recent
Edgelord Batman.
There is actually a recent comic where he like melts down.
Yeah, he makes it part of his armor.
Okay, so I'm going to assume that you're very familiar with this theory and that's what people have been going. Okay, I didn't know anything about this theory. I just really know comics.
Yeah, so the people have specifically pointed out that comic where he melts down the gun and he says, okay, now it's here.
Yep. My favorite thing about that is Alfred the whole time is like,
what are you doing?
Like, dude, like that, I didn't say, there's this point where he's like, I didn't say anything when like I threw out my back trying to get the dinosaur into the bat cave, but
why is this the thing that pushes you over, Alfred?
Exactly. He's like, this is pretty edgy, like even for you. He says like macabre or something. Anyway, point is
because he's British. Yeah. So yeah, I instantly thought Arkham video games when I saw it. Even though I've only ever played Arkham video games for like 20 minutes.
I was going to say, you're not a video game person.
No. I've played it for like 20 minutes of my life, but I've seen like cutscenes and things that just like look cool, and like people are like ranting about how it's better than any movie and stuff like that. So I've seen that.
Okay.
And I immediately thought Arkham, but the chest emblem, like the shape of it, I like and dislike. It just was not what I was expecting at all.
Yeah, it's not a bat.
It is and is not a bat.
Yeah, that's my biggest issue with it. It's just not directly, distinctly a bat.
What people were reporting before we saw this was that it was going to look almost exactly like Michael Keaton's bat symbol with like the yellow background.
Yeah.
And so I was like,
that's what you were banking on.
I was expecting to see that, and I was like, not that that's my favorite one. The Dark Knight one is my favorite one, but
it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
It's pretty edgy. But like I like that one. I think it looks good. I think it has a distinct style to it, and so I was expecting that, and it was not that.
Yeah.
But I do like the way it looks. I just was surprised.
Yeah.
And people have pointed out that it looks almost exactly like the emblem from the first Batman comic. That's like really simplified.
Oh.
And so if that's what they were going for, I'm like, okay, cool, go do that thing.
Okay, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like that first bat symbol almost doesn't look like a bat because it's just it's like a line with stuff dripping off of it or something. I was gonna
say, yeah, it's very
simplistic.
Yeah.
Moving on. Indiana Jones 5 is confirmed to come out.
It is confirmed.
In 2021?
Yep. Yeah. July 9th? Something like that.
I think we read that. But Harrison Ford, not Harrison Jones, is confirmed to be doing something with it. We don't know if it's acting. We don't know if it's just having say in where the character goes and stuff like that. But it's definitely happening.
It's happening. I was telling Noah about this. I've been following Indiana Jones 5 rather loosely ever since Indiana Jones 4 was released, and George Lucas was immediately like, wait, bear with us, there's another one coming out, don't hate this yet. And then
the next one will fix all the issues with this one.
Yes. And Harrison Ford, like from the beginning, has been saying that yes, he's going to be in Indiana Jones 5. I guess he just loves Indiana Jones.
Yeah, he hates Han Solo but loves Indiana Jones.
Yeah, which is very... I mean, even when he was in The Force Awakens, he was like, so I'll be in this, but you're killing Han Solo. Like, you will pay me a lot of money, and you will kill me. Like, let me be done with this forever.
Which is why he did a good job in that, because he was so happy he would never have to do it again.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, he does do a good job. Anyway, but Indiana Jones 5.
Okay, I have a prompting question. What do you want to see from Indiana Jones 5?
Okay. I want it to be a prequel.
A prequel.
And that's what I was getting at. From the beginning, the original talks for Indiana Jones 5 were that Harrison Ford was going to get out there, and they were like, oh man, Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones just came out. He's already looking pretty old. Mm-hmm. Surely he's never going to be in another movie. He can't do Indiana Jones. And then he was Han Solo in Force Awakens, but whatever. Like he can't do all these like crazy stunts and stuff that he used to do. So the idea is they would get some young actor to play Indiana Jones, and Harrison Ford would be like sitting on a park bench or something, like narrating all of these events, and he'd be talking about like, oh, like I went and I did this because, you know, Harrison Ford, he does have a history with doing voiceovers in his movies, and he notoriously hates it. If you've ever seen Blade Runner,
I've seen Blade Runner, but not the version that he has the voiceover.
Oh my gosh, it's so bad.
Well, the story behind that is that the studio requested it.
Yes.
Neither him or the director or like anyone
and no
making
one wanted
the movie wanted it, so they purposely did it bad to show how bad it would be.
Yeah.
And they were like, "This is great," and released it. So.
Yep,
yeah.
They were like, "Ooh, it's so like you're so like somber." And it's like he's like, "That's not what I went for at all." And they're like, "Yeah, okay, it's great. We're gonna do this behind your back."
It was just a.
Anyway, I've seen a lot of different versions of Blade Runner because that movie has a. Oh my gosh!
I think it only officially has 4 different versions.
Yeah. That's so many. I think 5 now.
But people are like, it has 18 million different versions and like freak
for
out.
A 3-hour movie, yeah. Okay. That's a lot of watching for one movie.
I watched the final cut.
Yeah.
So that one was pretty good.
It's pretty good.
I haven't
Dude,
seen
it's
the
so
other
good.
ones.
But anyways, point is, my vision for Indiana Jones, I would love a prequel type movie. I don't want to see, no offense to Harrison Ford, I don't want to see Harrison Ford play old Indiana Jones. I don't.
Okay. Well,
but then what are you?
Me personally, the only thing I liked about Indiana Jones 4 was old Indiana Jones. I liked old Indiana Jones doing things.
True. So I don't like
I would
Shia
like
LaBeouf in that.
To see more. And like what I was going to say is that when Indiana Jones 5 talks first started happening, it was Mutt Jones, who is Shia LaBeouf's character in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Which
and
is
now
apparently,
they won't touch that with a 5-foot pole.
Yeah, so that's definitely not going to happen. I'm wondering if they're going to bring back Short Round and bring him in as an adult, and he needs Indy's help or something. Or
okay.
Yeah,
I could see myself not hating that.
Yeah, it could be like prequel, but also new adventure in that like they flash back to a different adventure him and Short Round went on.
Yeah,
and like they have to finish that adventure in the present, in
that
the future.
You know what? I wouldn't hate that, and that would be such a like Disney Lucasfilm style. Like, hey, we did this one thing, and you loved this all 40 years ago. We're gonna make the same movie again, but also kind of different.
Yeah, but I think like the flashback stuff should not be more than 1/3 of the movie if that's gonna be.
Oh yeah. If you're gonna make a movie with Harrison Ford, then please let that be the focus.
And if they're gonna just do flashbacks, then just do de-aging stuff because I think it looks pretty good as long as it's like trying.
Yeah.
Some people just are like de-aging, come see the movie, and it does not look good.
No.
But I think that would look good just for 30 minutes of like dark, gritty adventure, so it's hard to see his face anyway.
Yeah. I just remembered.
I don't want to. I think it'd be weird if he like flashback and it's a completely different person. And it's like Chris Pratt is there being Indiana Jones.
I kind of love that idea. I hate it, but I love it.
I do not want to see Chris Pratt as Indiana
Jones. Oh, no, I don't either, but also just the thought of Chris Pratt with the hat on and the jacket and the bullwhip, just like, I'm Indiana Jones now. And we're all like, Chris Pratt? No.
Chris Pratt, get out of here.
No, Chris Pratt. Be Harrison Ford.
But anyway, yeah.
Woody Harrelson is Indiana Jones.
Get someone older to be Indiana
Jones. That's what I'm thinking. Oh my gosh, the answer was there the whole time.
Sean Connery is Indiana Jones.
Yes! If he wasn't a problematic actor and a misogynist, then that would be a great idea.
I have no idea what that's about, but I do know he hates acting now.
He does.
The last thing he acted in was League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
That was the last thing he was in?
Sadly, it was the last thing he was in.
Oh
That's
my gosh.
a horrible thing to be your last thing.
I was going to say, I know it's not good, but I love that movie.
I saw it in like 6th grade. I was like, let's go!
Yeah, it's so, if you're in 6th grade... But I
recognize it's not the best.
If you see that movie in 6th grade, it's so good.
But like, he had no idea what was going on for that entire
Oh my gosh, you're like, that guy's a vampire? And what? And Dr. Jekyll, don't take too much of the serum, because that's how that works.
Anyway, and I can't remember, he was like up to be in like Harry Potter or something, and he didn't understand the script, so he rejected it.
He dropped that.
And so he just doesn't do acting anymore because he just doesn't understand what's going on in most movies now.
Yeah.
So I feel like, though, he's definitely going to do one more before he dies. That's like a super simple role that he actually understands what's going on.
I would like that.
Yeah.
I would like that. I'd like a nice, like a Hollywood send-off.
Yeah. Like Unforgiven for Clint Eastwood, even though he's still alive.
Even though he's still alive.
Well, it was like the last one of his like westerns.
Yeah.
He's saying this. He committed to making that his last one, and it was actually really good. So.
Yep.
The next thing in news is Disney Plus release schedule was released to us, and this is your short opportunity to rant about streaming services, and also.
I love how much
just
emphasis you put on short.
Short rant.
Oh my
You'll do a long rant somewhere else.
Yeah.
In the future. But let's go over this. Falcon and Winter Soldier is coming out in August.
Mm-hmm.
Mandalorian Season 2 in October, and they're releasing weekly. So as soon as Falcon and Winter Soldier is over, Mandalorian Season 2 is there.
Yeah.
And as soon as that is over, in December, WandaVision is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to bleed into January, where Loki's about to start.
Yep.
And at the same time, or a little bit after Loki starts, Cassian Andor series comes out.
Yeah.
And then...
what Marvel exec decided that?
What?
Or not Marvel, what Disney executive decided that?
I don't think that's a bad idea. I think it could work, but...
It could.
It needs a lot of good writing.
It could.
If it's as good as The Mandalorian, if it has the same team as The Mandalorian on it, I think it's going to be great.
Yeah,
but it also has the potential to be absolutely horrible.
It does.
So, after what they did to Rogue One, even though I enjoy Rogue One...
it's my favorite Star Wars movie.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I know. I get that reaction a lot when I say that Rogue One is my favorite.
I really enjoy it, and I think I enjoyed it more than The Force Awakens.
Definitely.
And Episode 1 and 2, but it's definitely not my favorite. My favorite is actually Episode 6.
I thought you were going to say 3. I really did.
No, that's my wife's favorite. I have a wife, to the listeners. Surprise.
Moving on.
But... my wife's favorite is Episode 3, but mine is Episode 6 just because of nostalgia. I believe the best one is, I'm not going to say The Last Jedi, so breathe, is Episode 5.
Okay. So you think objectively...
Objectively, the best one is Episode 5. Okay. My favorite one is Episode 6 because me and my brother just watched it so much.
Yeah.
As kids.
It's so different from the others in the original trilogy. Yeah. It's so different.
It's a lot more kid-friendly, but also...
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but now watching
especially coming off of Episode 5.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was, a huge backlash to Episode 5, is that, this is crazy dark and nothing's hopeful and what are you people doing? Yeah. So that's why there's all those changes to Episode 6 to make it a lot more hopeful and kid-friendly. But, now watching it, I really enjoy... the Luke and Darth Vader and the Emperor stuff that actually has deep messaging and understanding of characters. I think that's way better than Ewok stuff.
Yeah.
But Ewok stuff was where it was at as a kid.
Okay.
Caravan of Courage.
I really, even as a kid, I didn't like all that stuff. But anyway, continue with your schedule.
Yeah, and then I think that's it for Marvel and / Star Wars stuff for a little bit, and then Obi-Wan comes out in the summer.
I'm very excited.
I'm very excited for Obi-Wan.
So excited for that.
There is news about the Obi-Wan series. There's been a lot of controversy and stuff.
It's been pushed back.
It's been pushed back because they want to rewrite some of the scripts, and other people were saying it was canceled, and other people were saying it's fine.
And Ewan McGregor the whole time is like, guys, like,
it's gonna
bear
happen
with us. It's really good. I promise.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm really excited for Obi-Wan. But the point is, if you like both Marvel and Star Wars, starting in August, if you don't have Disney Plus, you're just lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's my whole rant. So thanks for taking it from me. I see, with most subscription services, music, for example, like if you have Spotify, you know, you're super up to date with everything. Spotify will recommend, like, oh, you like this artist? Here, check this out. And it's very helpful. But if you don't have Spotify, then you're fine. You can listen to music on YouTube. You can talk to other friends of yours about music. Like, you're not going to be lost if you don't have Spotify. Mm-hmm. And then same thing with Netflix. Netflix has, and I mean Spotify does too, but like Netflix has its own original content. Like, if you want to listen to this, you have to listen to it on Spotify. Same thing with, or on if you want to watch this, you can only watch it on Netflix. Amazon, what is it? Amazon Prime? Video. Yeah. They have their own exclusive thing. Hulu, they have their own exclusive things. And
but it doesn't tie into things outside of the streaming service.
It's just it's its own thing. And now that Disney owns everything that like people are massive fans of, it's just like, do you want to be a fan of Marvel? Then you have to have this.
Yeah.
Do you want to, like, this is what's going. I met up with Noah yesterday. We talked a lot about fandoms, and you know, it's just interesting to think that, like, this is what's going to become the thing that separates, like, fans,
true fans, from people who just go see the movies.
Yeah, like, do you see the movie, or
do you if you take time to get the streaming service?
Yeah, well, if you watched The Mandalorian season 2 episode whatever, then you would know that blah 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 blah, and it's like, shut up.
But my thing is that, like, I don't believe Kevin Feige when he says you won't understand the movies without the TV shows, because that's not good business.
That's not how Marvel works.
But you're just going to get a lot more out of
movies
if you have this. And I don't think you need to watch The Mandalorian to get Star Wars.
Yeah.
So I think it's okay. It's just adding more, but it's getting closer and closer to where if you don't have the streaming service, you're not going to understand what's going on.
And I have a big issue with that. Marvel, honestly, say what you will about the MCU, but Marvel's movies have done a phenomenal job of taking, hey, you know what's obscure with tons of in-references, and if you've not been reading them for 40 plus years, you know what makes no sense? Comic books. So what we're going to do is we're going to make them super mainstream and like take these like characters and ideas that everybody knows, work in all of these stories that have all this background and all the crazy references to other comic book, and we're just going to all weave it together into one story. Marvel has been excellent at doing that. Mm-hmm. And it's just, it doesn't seem within the Marvel repertoire, within their own, like, how they already do business to make it to where you have to have Disney Plus to understand everything.
Yeah, and the old TV that they did, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Daredevil and different things like that, you did not have to watch to understand movies, which a lot of people didn't like. But it was also great because you could just enjoy it without watching the movies, and you could enjoy the movies without watching that, and it would be great.
Yeah.
And that's what made Daredevil, like, I really enjoyed Daredevil because it just wasn't bogged down with all the connections.
Okay, you have Disney Plus. I do not. Can you watch Daredevil on Disney Plus?
It's only Netflix.
It's still on Netflix.
Those Netflix shows are Netflix's property.
Okay.
Until whatever point in that Disney steals it back.
Steals it. It's called... Okay, never mind. But let's not use the word steal.
Okay, whenever Disney,
the contract runs out.
Because I don't know. Well, it's still their property. I don't know when the contract would run out.
That's what I'm saying.
So, I think, eventually Disney will get those shows on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
In like 8 years, when no one ever cares about them ever at that point.
Yeah.
Then they were like, hey, they're here, and everyone's going to start caring again.
Yeah. Remember those super obscure shows on Netflix?
That were really well done, but we didn't recognize it all.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the final thing I have to say about Disney Plus is that as of right now, the new season of Clone Wars starts tomorrow. How do you feel about getting Disney Plus over that?
Pretty tempted. I really like the Clone Wars show. You have not seen much of it, and you've talked about how...
I am in season 6, episode 9 right now.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get there before it comes out.
Yeah. Okay. Prior to Disney Plus and the announcing of all of this, you'd not seen a lot, right?
I had seen the first 3 seasons before Disney Plus.
Okay.
When it was on and off of Netflix for 3 years.
Yeah. But no, I'm very much a fan. I love that series. And we've talked about it before, and you've been like, oh, you know what? Like, when there are 3 or 4 episodes dedicated to a planet that you hate, then it's kind of the worst thing ever. But, personally, I love that.
You don't hate a planet, period.
All of the arcs are the best arc. But no, I really love, I don't know, Star Wars has, the best thing about Star Wars to me has always been, it's very expansive. There's a lot.
Yeah.
And I just love, oh, have you ever cared about this place or ever heard about it before? No? Okay.
Get ready to spend 3 hours there.
I know. And I love that. I love that. Even in places that I don't like, or story arcs that I don't like, or when they're talking about, Ventress for the 800th time, even though she's barely even a character at some points, I still love the show so much, because even in moments where I'm not passionate about exactly what they're doing, I still love the expansiveness of the universe and how much detail and care they put into it.
Yeah, that's almost my problem with it, is that Clone Wars is more specifically just showing more canon-driven than story-driven.
Yeah.
Where Rebels is what I enjoy more, is story-driven rather than, let's keep expanding the canon so if we get more details. There is good plot lines in Clone Wars, but then they're forgotten about for a whole season and then brought back. Yeah. And I just want to continue the plot line instead of going everywhere to get all the canon and then, oh, yep, there's the story again. So
it's like a Pokemon adventure. You're like, oh man, I better go to the next gym. And then you're like, but wait, first I've got to catch all the Pokemon on this route. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. That was the that was the analogy that came to mind.
Oh, I just thought of this news thing that there's officially going to be a Rebels sequel series coming out on Disney+.
I've not heard about that in the slightest.
Really?
I don't...
It's official. They don't know how many characters from Rebels will actually be in it, but they're referring to it as a Rebels sequel series that may be coming out later this year.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
They've been keeping it on the down low.
Gotcha.
But, it's so rumored and so confirmed by outside sources that it is almost 100% going to happen.
Yeah.
But we have no details.
So Rebels is the sequel series to Clone Wars.
Kind of.
So simultaneously, well, yeah, what do you mean kind of?
It's in the same vein, but it just brings...
There are characters
It brings back 3 characters and that's it.
So, there's a whole, the relationship between, Ahsoka and Darth Vader, that's a big thing.
Yeah, how do you define a sequel series?
It's a series that takes place after the original.
Yeah.
In the same universe.
I would say it has to include the same storylines and most of the same characters. Which is what the Rebel sequel series would be, is most of the same characters in continuation of where things were left off.
Gotcha. No, for me it's just it is a series that takes place after the original.
Yeah, because
in the same universe.
Yeah, and it's done in almost the same style.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard for me to define Rebels as a sequel series because it feels more like a spin-off because the characters in Clone Wars are not the main characters in Rebels at all.
Okay, I see that. Because my thing was, I was going to ask, I was so Clone Wars is going to be running on Disney Plus simultaneously to the sequel series. Yeah. The sequel series to the sequel series.
I think Clone Wars will end before that. ever comes out. And the rumor is by the end of this year. The rumor is by the end of this year, the sequel series will come out. It probably won't come out till next year, or else they would have announced it by now.
Yeah.
Unless they're going to, at like D23 over the summer, they're going to be like, hey, next month, it's happening.
Tomorrow.
Get ready.
Buy those subscriptions.
Okay. So we've talked about news for a minute.
Again.
That's okay. That we have this time, we're right on time. We're on schedule. You want to do feature presentation now?
We can do feature presentation.
Feature?
Yeah.
Feature?
Yeah, feature. Creature feature presentations?
Nope.
That is not the name of the bit.
Feature presentation. You want to introduce that?
How about I introduce it? You mean the idea of it?
The idea.
Okay, I'll introduce it and then you start.
We're only going to introduce the idea for 2 episodes.
Yeah.
And then people are just going to have to get it.
Okay.
Go.
Okay, so the idea of the show as a whole, we've been talking about news and such for a while now. So time to tell you what the show's actually about. This is supposed to be the main chunk, even though this will probably be a shorter bit in the thing. So the idea of the podcast itself is, hey, we're both nerds. We both, as we don't dab.
I dabbed.
They can't.
They could feel the dab.
Oh.
I'm sorry if you felt that dab.
Anyways, but yeah, so the idea is, as people who are both big fans of things, it would be really great if we could find gospel messages, because we are Christians. That's kind of a big thing for us.
It's in the title.
It's in the title, yeah. It would be really great if we could just kind of, outside of any real prompting, I guess, if we could just find gospel presentations in pop culture, in media, and then present them to you guys so that if you all are fans of those things as well, we can connect on that like spiritual and cultural level. And then you can go out and, like, if you have your own friend who is a fan of Star Wars, Marvel, comic books of some sort, just whatever we happen to be talking about, you can go out and just, like, hey, you there, you friend of mine who also likes this thing, have you ever stopped to think about how, like...
About this concept.
Yeah, about this concept that is already present in this thing that you love. And even if you don't bring a gospel conversation into it specifically, you can still talk to somebody and say, like, hey, here's some stuff to chew on, and then you can build a gospel conversation out of that.
It's really just to open up conversations.
Yeah.
So this is the feature presentation where we bring our ideas on where we found a gospel or biblical message in some sort of media. So you want me to start?
I would love for you to start, because I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, because I decided right before we hit record, and I didn't tell you what.
Yeah, you were like, "Oh man, I've got like 7,000 ideas, and I don't know what I'm doing."
4 ideas,
like so many ideas, and you started throwing them at me, and now I'm lost.
Yeah, so my idea, I think I've told you about it before. Actually, I know I did, but it's from the TV show Community. And there's an episode in season 1 where a character named Abed, who is most people who listen to this podcast would probably identify with that character because he's super obsessed with movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
Anyway, he is like socially awkward and he understands the world through movies and TV shows. And so they find the group, the show is about a study group at a community college. Mm-hmm. That's just the basic premise. The group finds out a girl likes him. And so now they have to find a way to get Abed to ask the girl out. And it's actually a really, really funny episode. And I should probably look it up and tell you what episode it is, but I won't because I'll look it up.
Okay, I was going to say,
I'll look it up. I'll tell you what the episode is in a minute.
Put an asterisk next to the name, be like, reference number 8.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, the idea of this episode, I ran out of Wi-Fi, so...
I ran out of Wi-Fi.
I'm going to have to do it on my phone.
I was going to say, what is this? the 1990s?
It's like I ran out of minutes.
Like, oh man, my Wi-Fi's down.
Yeah.
Gotta plug in my router. My modem.
Anyway, so the idea of this episode is they have to change Abed so he can go talk to this girl.
Yes.
And they tell him, be yourself. And he beats himself.
He does his good job with that.
Yeah, he is himself, and he just, and they're like, what are you doing? He's like, myself wouldn't go talk to her. And then he said, okay, is there a version of yourself that would go talk to her? And he goes, oh yeah. And he turns around and he like sticks his tongue out and his hands are like reaching out at different people, and he goes, when he's going at this person, and they all stop him, drag him back, and he said, I'm a vampire. That's the version of me that would go talk to her. But anyway, at the end of the episode, we learned that Abed doesn't do this because, I'm looking it up, because most of the time, girls walk up to him and ask him out.
Yeah.
And what the specific question one of the people in the study group asked is, Abed, why'd you let us try and change you? Why didn't you just tell us this is how it works? And his quote is, if you know who you are and what you like about yourself, changing for others is not that big of a deal. And so that specific quote is what I found a biblical message in. A
lot of background.
Okay. Yeah. So the name of the episode is Physical Education. It's season 1. Let me see. It doesn't tell me.
Fandom.com.
Season 1, number 17. Okay, episode 17 of the whole show is physical education, and this is one of the plots in the show, because there's like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But anyway, that specific quote is one I wanted to talk about, in that it really shows a side of Christianity that Christians don't often talk about. And I wanted to specifically point out for 1 Corinthians 9, 20 and 22. And it says, to the Jews I became a Jew, and to win the Jews. To those under the law I became one under the law, so as to win those under the law. To those not having the law I became like one having the law, so as to win those not having the law. To the weak I became weak, to win the weak. To all I have become all things to all people, so that by all possible means I might save some. And so the idea is, if you know who you are in Christ, if you know your identity, and you know what parts of your personality are specifically given to you by God, not formed by culture, and so you can do whatever you want as long as you don't break those things. So the things you like about yourself, you know who you are and what you like about yourself, changing for others is not a big deal. Mm-hmm. And so like that's what Paul is saying in 1 Corinthians is, if you know who you are in Christ, and you know what to do, and what sinning is to you, and what sinning in a different culture would be, and what about you is just your culture, then doing as the Jews do, doing as the Greeks do, doing as the people who you would call weak do, isn't a big deal. And we are called to do these things so that we may reach as many people as possible. And so Abed is doing this in the show just because if he knows who he is and he knows what he likes about himself, then having friends and changing a little bit to have friends and make them happy is not a big deal. And so like where this breaks down in our culture is like culturally I am a white American, and so some yeah I have certain cultural things that I may associate with Christianity, but as long as I know who I am in Christ and what God has placed in my life and what a sin like truly is, then some of the things that I identify as Christian, I can just quit doing in order to reach other people and in order to reach other countries and other cultures. I'm not going to set up stumbling blocks to them. Yeah. Because I know who I am and what I like about myself, and that happens to be God, because I'm a Christian.
Yeah. There's a contextualization of the gospel. Woo! First high five of the podcast.
do it right in front of the mic.
No, let's not.
Second high five of the podcast.
No, let's not do that to them, please. Okay. I've listened to too many podcasts where they're like high five right in front of the mic, and it's like, you didn't edit that very well.
But, okay, so did you have any comments or questions about that? I think I explained it a little too much, honestly.
My only feedback is leave me more room next time. No. I think that's a really interesting point. Like I just said, contextualization of the gospel. That's something that I've read about and thought about and studied a lot. And I don't think that it's something that we do as Christians nearly enough, especially within the context of American.
Yeah, Southern America is like, we do things this way because we love God, but that's not
Christian.
That's not recommended in the Bible. You're just doing it that way, and that's fine because it's not sinful.
Yeah,
but don't force it on other people.
And that is sinful.
Yeah,
to force it on other people. Like Paul says in that, like, to the Greek I became Greek, to the Jew I became Jew.
Yeah,
like that is the whole point of the gospel. Jesus,
it can apply to everyone.
It can apply to everyone. Jesus, he spoke, like, his ministry was founded upon, like, him going and, like, hey, see this Samaritan woman? Like, and he just goes and talks to her. Jews, Gentile, like, Nicodemus. When Nicodemus comes to him in his house, like, Nicodemus was, like, some, like, high-level...
Yeah, he was, like, an assistant to the Pharisees, who were for those who don't know, the leader of the Jews, basically.
Yes, the leaders of the
Jews.
King of the Jews.
No, that's Jesus.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah. The spiritual leaders of the Jews what is called the law and the rules that the Jews were following are called Pharisees.
Yes.
And Nicodemus was a assistant to one of the Pharisees.
Yes.
So he's pretty high up.
He was pretty high up. And Jesus, like, he spoke to Nicodemus, and when he's speaking to Nicodemus, he uses language that Nicodemus understands. He speaks in terms of the Old Testament. He speaks in these, like this is how this applies. When he speaks to crowds of Jewish people, he uses, like, not really... He does occasionally. He doesn't really reference and, like, specifically say, like, here, if you look in Psalm 119, verse, whatever. But he alludes to these biblical Old Testament Torah ideas.
And the culture was, you all are going to know this.
Yeah.
Because that was, like, one of their only books. So they all had read this and, like, knew a lot out of it.
Yeah.
Unlike us.
So
when we read that, we're like, well, I wonder if he's referencing something, and you go down to the commentary, and you're like, he is referencing something.
In the same book I'm reading.
Oh my gosh. But, yeah, Jesus, like, presented himself differently and spoke differently to different people, and so does Paul. And, like, you can see that in the epistles, the different letters that people, the followers of Christ, wrote.
My favorite is when he's calling out Peter for not doing a good job. When he's just like, why, how come you were sitting with them just a second ago, Peter? Like, come on.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah, that's specifically, like, a cultural, and you could even say an ethnic or race.
Yes, that's how I've always interpreted that.
That Peter is, like, expressing in that, like, no, the Jews are they're doing the right thing. They're following the law, is what Peter says. And Paul says, no, you're wrong. If you're doing that because you believe the Jews are more correct than the Gentile Christians, then you are sinning.
Yeah.
And he, like, rebukes him.
Yeah.
And Peter's like, yeah, you're right.
You're right. and that's such a beautiful thing for me because, I mean, on a completely different note, that shows that there's not really, like, a ranking system in the Bible. I mean, I guess you could say, like, there is the fabled Hall of Faith. But like, when it comes down to it, Paul was just kind of a Christian. Yes, he was recruited by Jesus himself. Sure, whatever.
And he was a Jew, and so he knew a lot of Jewish things. But
yes, but for him, what I'm trying to say, for him to go to one of the 12 apostles, and like, hey, you're being racist. Like, this is a big deal. You are setting up stumbling blocks for our Gentile brothers.
Yeah.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, sorry. That was my my Bible
rant. I'm not condoning that if a culture does something specifically sinful or has a belief that is specifically against God's teachings, you should just do that to win them.
Yeah.
No, it's do what you like. There's no limit aside from sin. Your sin is your only limit on things that you can't do.
Yeah.
So if this person is eating this food, you eat that food.
Yeah.
If this person understands the world in this way, you address it
in that way
instead of saying, well, the correct way to address it is this way.
Yeah.
So start thinking that way, and then I'll explain it to you. So yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, but that's something that's really stood out to me because I love the show Community, and it's a very, very good show, and Elias has not seen it.
I've seen a few episodes.
But it's really, really good. It has a lot of social commentary, and it's specific views on religion I don't agree with, but like its social commentaries are like really have some good truths in it, and so I would recommend that show. 1 and 2, this has really just stood out to me. Like I've seen the show through like 4 times, I think.
Oh gosh!
And since the second time I've seen this episode, that specific quote has stood out to me as like something that like Christians should be paying attention to and should be trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is your feature presentation?
I wasn't finished commenting on yours, but okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. No, it's fine. If I wanted to say one last thing, it would just be that, that was very well said.
Oh, well, thank you. And I didn't even write it down.
You didn't. See, this whole time you were stressing that you needed to write a paragraph or two to speak on. And
I just have had this ingrained in me since birth. No,
I was going to go the route that, like, if the Lord has given you words, and you should just speak.
Yeah.
And He'll give you the words to say if He wants you to say them, but... Yeah. All right, ingrained in birth, we'll go with that. if that's the route.
Me. I did not watch Community when I was born. It was not a thing when I was born.
Your mom watched a lot of it, and so as a child, you're like, whoa!
In the womb, I'm like, oh my gosh!
Abed, you're so
cool!
Start kicking.
Anyway.
This is very disturbing.
Just like John, he kicked and he leaped in the womb when he was near Jesus. And
I cannot imagine what that must have felt like.
It describes it as leaping, not just like he kicked or he moved a lot.
Leaping.
He's like trying to get out through your stomach.
Like, oh my gosh. She's just like, Mary, get away. Stop.
What a crazy metaphor for how, like, we're supposed to reach for Jesus.
Yeah.
Like,
we're supposed to leap in the womb, dude.
You're supposed to try and get out of, like, you're supposed to, but, like, the idea is, like, if he gets out of that womb, he's going to die.
Yeah.
He's going so hard that he doesn't care that reaching for him means death.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is something John the Baptist was very good at doing.
Dying?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did die.
For Jesus, yes. So that's what I'm trying to say. I'm like, the metaphor completes itself because it's in the Bible. Oh my gosh, Noah
What
Wilder.
is your feature presentation, Elias?
My feature presentation. Thank you for asking. So, I'm immediately going to set myself out as the radical here. I basically, last night, I texted Noah and I said, Hebrews 10:4 with no context.
Hebrews 10:4?
And you copy. And he sent me back a psalm, and I was like, oh, you get it. But anyway.
I read the verse, and I was like, that's like Psalm 51.
Yep.
So I sent that back.
Yes, and I really appreciate it. And then I texted you back and said, John 3:16.
John 3:16 applies to all things. If someone's dealing with, like, a death of a relative, John 3:16, that's all you need to say. That's a joke. Don't say that.
I was like, wow. I was like, is that really the hill you're gonna die on there, buddy?
No. Hebrews 10:4.
Hebrews 10:4, which really Hebrews 10 in general. Hebrews 10:4, I think, is the most well known, I'd say. But Hebrews 10:4 is saying it is impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sins. Mm-hmm. And then if we scroll down a little bit and we go to Hebrews 8, it says this is Jesus speaking.
Hebrews 10:8.
Hebrews 10:8.
Okay.
Jesus starts speaking and he says, first he said, sacrifices and offerings, burnt offerings and sin offerings you did not desire, nor were you pleased with them, though they were offered in accordance with the law. Then he said, here I am, I have come to do your will. He set aside the first to establish the second, and by that will we have been made holy through the sacrifice of the body of Jesus Christ once and for all. So,
Amen.
Amen. So first thing, I have to correct myself real quick. Because I said that was Jesus speaking. That's not Jesus. That's Paul who wrote Hebrews. And as soon as I said that...
No. Paul didn't write Hebrews. We don't know who wrote Hebrews.
Allegedly, it was
it's
Paul.
Likely to be Paul or Peter, but we can't confirm based on the evidence we have.
We can't. I've always felt like Paul.
Yeah, but okay, we're not going to get into this because it doesn't actually matter. It's the Bible.
It doesn't matter.
So
Jesus,
it's
God
the Word of God, regardless. So.
Point is, I've just always felt it matches his writing style. Moving on. Okay, moving on. So, my thing is I wanted to talk about a specific concept which I think has been very prevalent in our, I don't know, cultural understanding of, like, comics and such since, like, the 90s, basically. And that is the idea of, like, a vigilante or an anti-hero.
Okay. I'm trying to follow along.
No. I gotcha. I'm very excited about this. But basically, you have characters, like, you can think of, like, golly, who'd be a phenomenal example? Like, Spider-Man.
Okay.
He's
not an anti-hero.
He's not an anti-hero. I'm getting here. Give me a second, dude.
Okay.
You have these heroes like Spider-Man. You have these heroes like...
Superman.
Wonder Woman. Superman.
Superman is like... Boy Scout, perfect. They're heroes in, like, Period.
the most perfect sense of the word. Even if they went through something traumatic, like, again, Spider-Man.
They're still perfect.
They're still perfect. They're still, like... I've always loved Spider-Man specifically because I've never seen him as, like, a superhero. I've always seen him as, like, this is what a child thinks a superhero should be. He always does the right thing because that's what superheroes are supposed to be. Mm-hmm. I love that. Anyways.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone heard that because I said it real quick.
You said it really quiet.
With great power comes great responsibility.
No, stop. Disney's going to stop.
Sony owns the rights to that. That's why they don't say it in the Disney movies.
Wait, Sony owns the rights?
To that line? Yeah. Because it's in the first Spider-Man. And so they... Once Disney, when they were making Spider-Man movies, did not want to associate with the Sony Spider-Man movies. And also...
Oh my gosh, you're right!
There could have been some legal issue with that. But now I think since it was first said in the comics, now Disney owns the comics.
Yes.
They may have the rights to that, but it depends on if there's ever a copyright put out for that phrase. Anyway, keep going.
Wow.
So those are like the perfect heroes, which is like why I like Superman now, where I hated him before. Because like before I was like, he's perfect, he's uninteresting. And now I'm like, he's perfect. It's just like Jesus. Like, he's perfect, and all this stuff is happening to him, and he's still perfect.
And
like,
he's
that's
still perfect.
Really admirable and not boring of him to be.
You're a comic book guy. Have you ever read All-Star Superman?
No.
We'll talk about that later, because it doesn't have to do specifically with what I'm talking about today. But it's an excellent comic book story. We'll talk about it. Anyway, so those are like the perfect heroes. But then you have heroes like, you'll have Batman, or you'll have a hero...
Punisher.
Punisher.
Yeah.
I don't want to say Deadpool. That's way too...
Moon Knight.
Moon Knight's one of my favorites. So Moon Knight is a great one.
Iron Man.
Even if you... Yeah, a little bit. Or if you wanted to even go and say, like, the Incredible Hulk, because, like, he's, like, born from this, like, rage. He's a hero, sort of. But, like, it depends on who's writing. But, like, he's born out of this anger, out of this rage, out of this sin.
And he has a lot of collateral damage, too.
Yeah. Yeah, he does. Now, all that being said, there's this idea. I'm just trying to think of the best way to phrase this. So anyway, the reason I read that passage from Hebrews is because I think of like these heroes in the sense of like this is very Old Testament. And I'm not trying to say that there is a difference between Old Testament and New Testament God. I'm trying to say very specifically that in the Old Testament, it was the Old Testament. There was an old covenant, and we are now under the new covenant. And these like vigilante, anti-hero, like Batman, like he is the protector of Gotham. Mm-hmm. But whereas someone like Superman is like this like perfect shining example, and no matter how far he dives deep down into the muck and like dirtiness around him, he always shines brighter.
Yeah.
Batman is the contrast to that, where he doesn't just dive into the darkness. He embraces that. He's made that a part of himself. Earlier when we were talking about Batman, it's like, oh yeah, like in one weird random comic book, he takes the gun that killed his parents and melts it down and makes it a piece of his armor. Yep, that's Batman.
Yeah.
That's Batman. He took something inherently evil and like used against him, and he made that as like part, like, no, now this is a part of my personal symbol of hope. And that there's something beautiful about that. Again, very Old Testament, but when Paul or Peter or whoever wrote Hebrews is talking and saying, like, you know, like in the Old Testament, there were these burnt offerings, there were these blood sacrifices, but in all honesty, that was what the law required. Jesus, God, whatever, he never wanted that. He was never pleased by or sated with, like, oh yeah, you took your pigeon, you took your bird, and you killed it in this super specific way so the blood could drain properly from it, and then you burned it, and you know, like, God was never satisfied by that. He was never like, oh yeah, you did a really good job killing that animal there. Yeah. Like that, there was a law, and the law was upheld, and that's what mattered to God. It's the heart. It's always been about the heart stance. And I just, my thing that I think is interesting or niche, or I guess you could say beautiful, about these anti-heroes is just the fact that, like, they represent that in a way that, like, no one else and nothing else really do in storytelling, in the sense that, like, they are this divine judgment in a way. They are this wrath. They are this thing that, like, I don't know, in a very edgy way, you could say they are what goes bump in the night.
They are the darkness.
They are the darkness.
I had a question.
Okay,
so what I don't know if what I am understanding is what you're trying to tell me, but what I was understanding is anti-heroes are like the Old Testament heroes and like leaders in that.
Yes.
Like, and not only does it line up with like they're following
the judges.
They're following the law, but they don't really get it. Yeah. And that, like, the Punisher, he punishes people and he kills people because they break the law.
But in doing so,
you don't get it clearly because you're going and breaking the law to punish these people. So. Yeah, so it's like that. And also, like, Old Testament heroes, just, you're specifically pointed out where they are not perfect. Yes. Like, almost every time. Unless it's just, like, a really short thing. Like, Old Testament heroes, like Jonah. You're just told he's not perfect the entire time, and everything he's doing is wrong. But at the end, it worked out because God. Yeah. You know? And then after it worked out, he was like, see, Jonah, you're being dumb.
And Jonah still is like, but, like, you know, like, even, you killed my shade tree. Come on, dude.
Or, like, even Noah, you're specifically, like, you're shown, like, everything he did, and then at the end of the story, it's like, and then this thing happened in a tent. And, see, he's not perfect. You can look that up and look up commentary to that, because I don't have time to explain all that.
That's but, like, that's like every whole biblical can of worms.
And, like, David... is like super, super prideful. Yeah. And Solomon is super, super wise, but he's always like doesn't value the wisdom the way God values wisdom. And so like he values wisdom, which is good. Yes. But he's doing it wrong. Yes. And so that's like the anti-hero thing is like, you want to do this good thing, but you're doing it completely wrong. And it's negating the point. Right? And so, but it's
negating the point.
Yeah, the New Testament heroes are only Jesus, pretty much. And like like if I would to define New Testament hero, like nothing stands up to Jesus, so I guess it's just Jesus. But like sub-heroes of the New Testament, like Paul, Peter,
the Squirrel Girl of the New Testament,
D-level heroes of the New Testament. Anyway, so like Peter and Paul, like, you're shown their imperfection and they talk about it. Yes. But, like, their actions...
They're very open. That's my favorite thing about the New Testament, honestly, is when, like, Paul is like, I am chief among sinners. And it's like, yes, Paul!
Yeah, you are! But, like, Jesus is, like, perfect. Yes. He's the Superman in this. And, like, he just, no matter what he went through, he remained perfect and ended up doing the most for us because of his perfection.
Yeah.
And so is that what you're getting at?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the general idea.
Okay. Cool. And the specific thing that popped up when you were talking about, like, but also anti-heroes have a place in that, like, they're not perfect, but they're still doing the right thing.
They're still doing the right thing.
Yeah, and, like, the idea of taking the gun and making it part of your armor, like, my brain was like, what God has meant for evil, or man has meant for evil, God has meant for good.
Oh, I always read that as intended, but okay. Never mind.
Or as intended.
Yeah, I was gonna try and say the verse at the same time as you, and then I was like, wait, he's doing a different version. If I say the same verse, it sounds weird if we're saying different words.
It means the exact same thing. But, like, I think... And, like, same with the Old Testament heroes and, like, leaders. Like, you're supposed to look at them and say, look at this crazy, amazing things that they do. Yeah. But also see their sins and where they fail.
Where have they fallen short?
But for Jesus, it's just, look at how much he went through and still remained perfect. Look at how much he did and, like... that, like, just is not the point.
Yeah.
But it emphasizes the gospel so much more in that he went through all this and remained perfect. And like those are the people we're supposed to admire.
Yeah.
Even though Batman's cool, even though we're supposed to look at Superman and be like, yeah, but that's the guy.
Yeah, that's the guy.
Know?
Yeah.
Even though David is cool, even though Moses is cool.
They all point to a greater truth.
You're supposed to look at Jesus and be like, but that's the guy.
Yeah.
The guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So that's the thing.
Just like the concept of anti-hero versus like true hero.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So there you go.
Cool.
That's my thing. That's why I texted you Hebrews 10:4 in the middle of the night.
And I responded Psalm 51.
Yep.
And I want you to, like, when he was talking about Old Testament, we're supposed to take that as you doing this is what saves your sin from your sin. It's your heart and your spirit. And so you don't even have to do this. But it's the law, and this will show your heart and spirit in doing these things. Because you're supposed to take your most prized animal and sacrifice that. So it's like, my heart's so broken that I'll give this most prized animal to you. And that's like, right before Jesus came, surprise, surprise, the Jews were like buying these crappy animals right in front of the temple that they didn't care about, so they weren't even having the right heart and doing the sacrifice anymore. You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. And I'm talking a lot, but, like, is there anything...
And I'm talking a lot.
Is there anything you wanted to, like, really emphasize and add, or was just that concept really hit you?
The concept just really hit me. And it's something that I feel like most of the time that we've been sitting around, like, discussing ideas of things that we want to talk about, it's been like you being like, like, I saw this great message, and then it's me being like, I've had this thing on the tip of my tongue, and I can't figure it out. And as I was reading my Bible last night, it just, like, that verse stuck out to me, and I was like, I've got it. I finally found the biblical linchpin in my idea of anti-heroes, and I wanted to work a thing into it. Because you have this great way... Oh my gosh, we're already talking about this on episode 1. But you have this great thing where you can talk about something and be like, I watched this movie, I did this, here is this specific scene or this specific line that was said, and here's how this exact thing corresponds to the gospel or this biblical message. I am far more like a conceptual, like, oh, here's this. Every now and then I'll see something and I'll be like, oh, like this specific thing reminds me of a gospel message. But I am far more of a like
here's this concept.
Here is this concept.
How does that relate to the Bible?
Yeah. How does this Bible how does this concept inherently like come from?
Teach us something about humanity.
Teach us something about humanity.
Also true in the Bible.
Yeah. And I love that, especially because like Western culture, we kind of wear our Judeo-Christian influence on our sleeve in a lot of ways.
And we fail to recognize it.
And so this is such an interesting idea to me. Like, hey, this whole time that you've been telling this story, or like, the whole time that you've been writing this script for Good Will Hunting, you've just been writing the Bible.
Like, you've just been taking this story from the Bible and being like, but what if?
Yeah. It's like people don't even realize it at this point.
Yeah.
We're so desensitized to the Bible that we don't even realize 90% of the time that we're just doing that.
Yeah, and specifically, like, why I wanted to start the podcast and why I think this is important is, like, it's hard to see the gospel in things.
Yeah.
But if we're watching something, if we're doing something, we're supposed to be looking for God. And so, like, us as hosts, or host and co-host, or co-hosts, or whatever it is.
Excuse me.
We have not defined
this. Mr. Host. I'm glad I can be co-host to you.
Anyway, whatever that is, us as people who are hosting this podcast, we have to, like, change our mindset to be able to do this and come present an idea every week. We have to be on the lookout. And I want listeners to be on the lookout. And so, like, I guess we're moving on to the next section of, like, users. If you have
users
or listeners, listeners,
I'm our Christian viewing experience user.
Listeners, if you have an experience or like a gospel message you've seen, write to us and tell us about it. You can email us at ocvepod@gmail.com. And so I really want to interact with you guys. And if you ever have an idea that's like you have it so firmly down and you're in the area, like, come on the podcast and present it to us. Like, we'd really enjoy that. But yeah, I think this was I like
in the area, as you started off this podcast saying, in our city.
The area.
The area.
It's going to be a search for where we are.
Oh.
Even though we're only sharing this with our friends because it's the first one. But this was a good first episode.
This was a solid first episode.
I like the concepts you brought up. Mm-hmm. That's a really good thing to think about. And I think there's, like, a lot more to unpack.
Oh, yeah.
In that concept.
I came up with a great idea, and it was all me.
Yeah.
That's the best thing about it.
Go repent. Anyway. I think there's a lot more to unpack, and I think maybe even, like, a few episodes from now, you can just... Here's this deeper level of this concept. We could do that. But anyway, thanks for listening to the podcast. Feel free to contact us with anything you want to talk about or questions or, like, input and what we have. And hopefully this last section of, like, audience interaction is a lot bigger because the audience is interacting with us next time.
As it stands, our audience count is at 0. So,
so thanks a lot for listening. Yeah. Is there anything you want to say before, like, a closing statement?
I'm not singing a song.
You don't want to sing this time?
I'm not singing again. Oh my gosh.
Elias, please sing.
No, I'm not. No.
Okay.
Anyway, but hey,
you're disappointed all 0 listeners.
I'm really. But anyway, just wanted to say, since this is the first episode and we are sending this out to friends and such, thank you to everyone who has sat with us and listened to this whole thing. It really means a lot to us as we've kind of been struggling, and I know to the people that I'm sending this to, I've talked a little bit about it and kind of the struggles and asked for prayer in a lot of different ways. So thank you to, like, the people who we're directly sending this out to, and then thank you as well to the people who go back and listen to this at some point. Just please continue to keep us in your prayers as we're just 2 people trying to figure out how to make this work. So
all right, that's it.
All right, bye.